Today, a storm is erupting in Cleveland, and it has nothing to do with the weather. As the Browns manipulate their quarterback depth chart like a chessboard, NFL legend Lavar Arrington just dropped a bombshell that should have every executive in Berea sounding the alarm. Right now, they're sitting atop a powder keg, and the name written across it is Shedeur Sanders. Quick timeout. If you're into bold, no-holds-barred NFL breakdowns like this, hit subscribe so you never miss what's coming next. From the outside, it looks routine. The Browns are grinding through training camp, prepping for another season, all while pretending to host a so-called open quarterback competition. But zoom in just a bit, and something reeks. One name, perhaps the most electrifying talent in the building, is quietly being frozen out. While Kenny Pickett and Gabriel are being spoon-fed valuable first-team reps, Shedeur Sanders is being relegated to the background, stuck in watered-down drills that don't come close to matching his elite-caliber ability. Let's get this straight. We're not talking about some anonymous rookie. We're talking about a quarterback who torched college defenses at Colorado, thrived under the national spotlight, and walked into OTAs and minicamp with laser-sharp focus. In private practices, insiders say Shedeur completed 41 of 53 passes, a 77.4% completion rate with multiple jaw-dropping touchdowns. He wasn't just solid, he was sensational, and yet, somehow, he remains the only quarterback in this competition who hasn't been granted consistent first-team opportunities. Let that sink in. When reporters cornered the coaching staff for answers, the responses were murky at best. Head coach Kevin Stefanski, who once boldly declared every QB would get a fair shot, now dodges the topic like it's radioactive. No explanations, no transparency, just awkward silence. That's when Lavar Arrington stepped in. The former Pro Bowler and respected football analyst went scorched earth. In a fiery, now viral segment, Arrington blasted the Browns for what he called a blatant mishandling of Shedeur Sanders' development. "If I'm Shedeur," he thundered, "I'm watching all of this thinking, this ain't a real competition. This is politics. And if I'm the Browns, I better wake up because this kid is watching too. You think he's going to stay quiet forever?" Arrington's not ranting for ratings. He's seen how franchises unravel when they mishandle generational talent, especially a player with the pedigree, the poise, and the media firepower of Shedeur Sanders. If this fiasco escalates, it won't just be a minor misstep. It'll go down as one of the most humiliating, self-inflicted debacles involving a rookie quarterback in recent NFL memory. Because here's the fuse on this ticking time bomb. Shedeur isn't some desperate fifth-rounder clinging to a roster spot. He's the son of Dillon Sanders, a quarterback forged under the relentless heat of primetime pressure. He's battle-tested, he's media-savvy, he's got the swagger and now the stat sheet might to back it all up. And still, he's being buried. Why? That's the question igniting outrage across Browns Nation. To grasp the full magnitude of what's unfolding, you need to pull back and look at the broader implications. This isn't just a quarterback controversy. It's a referendum on culture, leadership, and integrity. The Browns vowed to run a transparent, merit-based process. Stefanski himself stood behind the podium and promised an equal four-man quarterback battle. But once the reps started flying, the favoritism was crystal clear. Joe Flacco got his look. Kenny Pickett was plugged in with the starters. Even Dillon Gabriel, despite persistent reports of inconsistency, was cycled in frequently. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders, the one dazzling teammates and dominating drills, remains shackled to the sideline. For many fans, it feels like history repeating itself. Another dynamic young black quarterback being told to wait his turn, even after outshining his peers. Another moment where locker room politics seemed to outweigh pure performance. And the internet, it's erupting. Social media is ablaze with hashtags like #FreeShedeur and #LetHimCompete, as thousands of fans call out the Browns' hypocrisy and demand accountability. The eyes of the league are watching now. And if the Browns keep playing games, they might just fumble something far more valuable than a preseason rep. They could lose the locker room, the fan base, and a potential franchise cornerstone. But it's no longer just the fans raising alarms. Former players, insiders, and analysts are sounding off too. NFL insider Jordan Schultz put it bluntly in a recent segment. If Shedeur Sanders played like Dillon Gabriel has, he'd be buried on the depth chart. But because it's flipped, the coaches are pretending the stats don't exist. That's the very storm Lavar Arrington was forecasting. The volcanic tension between what's being broadcast publicly and what's actually happening behind closed doors. Because if the Browns are truly committed to competition, then why is the most efficient, composed, and electrifying quarterback in camp being boxed out of the first-team huddle? The stakes, they're skyrocketing by the day. See, Shedeur isn't just battling for a roster spot. He's confronting a narrative, one that says a fifth-rounder should be quiet, humble, and wait his turn. But that narrative falls apart when the so-called veterans are throwing picks in practice, missing simple reads, and failing to execute at even a baseline level. The idea that Sanders should develop in silence is laughable when he's already outshining the field. And it's more than just bad optics. It's a dangerous precedent. Because when a player earns opportunity and it's stolen by politics, you don't just lose face, Shani, you lose the locker room. And according to insiders, that's already happening. A source close to the team says multiple players have privately voiced frustrations. They've watched Shedeur slice through scout teams, deliver precision strikes, and lead with a calm beyond his years, only to see him snubbed again and again. One player reportedly told a staff member, "We all see what's going on. This ain't about football anymore." Let that sink in. If the Browns lose the faith of their own locker room, it's not just going to be a rough season. It's going to be a disaster, no matter who starts under center. Lavar Arrington's warning isn't clickbait. It's coming from a deep well of NFL experience. He's seen what happens when teams fracture, when players stop believing in the process. His exact words: "This situation in Cleveland with Shedeur, it's going to blow up if they don't get a grip. I've seen it before." And he's not the only one. Former Browns legends like Joe Thomas have taken to social media with the subtle jabs, hinting that something is off with how this QB battle is being handled. Even local beat reporters, who usually tread carefully to protect access, are now asking blunt questions about Stefanski's leadership, transparency, and decision-making. That almost never happens in NFL media circles, and what's even more damning, the Browns have gone silent. No press conference, no clarification, no defense of their so-called open competition. Just a tight-lipped coaching staff, hoping the questions die off, but they won't. Because Shedeur Sanders is no ordinary rookie. He's not just Deion Sanders' son. He's a film room assassin, a proven winner, and one of the most mechanically polished young quarterbacks in the league. Coaches rave about his footwork, his pre-snap reads, and his ability to process quickly under pressure. Teammates trust him, analysts praise him, and fans, they're starting to rally behind him in full force. So the real question is, what are the Browns afraid of? Are they worried that if Shedeur lights it up with the starters, it'll expose the cracks in their veteran investments? Are they protecting fragile egos, or are they just too scared to disrupt the status quo? Because here's the truth. Shedeur isn't asking for charity. He's earning it. From his 77% completion rate in OTAs to tight window throws that leave DBs stunned, Sanders is putting together the kind of tape that screams starter. And yet the silence from Browns HQ is deafening. Deafening. Damning. Dangerous. Because the locker rooms aren't built on stats. They're built on trust. Trust in the system. Trust in the leadership. Trust that if you perform, you'll be rewarded. But once that trust erodes, you get division. You get resentment. You get players going through the motions, not because they're lazy, but because they've stopped believing it matters. That's the time bomb Lavar was warning about. Not a literal explosion, but a slow implosion of belief. The kind that ends in missed playoffs, staff firings, and full-blown cultural collapse. And right now, that's where Cleveland's headed. If Kevin Stefanski wants to truly lead this team, he has to make a decision. And fast. He can cling to politics and continue to sideline the best-performing QB on the roster, or he can pivot, embrace meritocracy, and ignite something special in this franchise. Let the kid play. Because this isn't just about a rookie waiting his turn. This is about a cultural turning point. A shift toward accountability. A quarterback room that desperately needs authenticity, fire, and fearless leadership. I think the entire quarterback unit performed admirably this spring. All four of those guys showed flashes, and we'll continue placing them in competitive situations. Ideally, though, we'd like to make a definitive decision sooner rather than later. Some confusion lingers around the reps, though. Reports say Pickett took first-team snaps, followed by Gabriel and Sanders, with Flacco seeing none. Yet somehow Flacco is listed at 5 for 5? Suggests those completions came during a different segment or drill. Anyway, we'll go back and break it all down, frame by frame. Meanwhile, here's Shedeur in some individual drills. Take a look. See the way the ball's effortlessly jumping out of his hand? It's subtle, very subtle, but noticeable. He's not forcing it. Now, I do want to see him polish up this part of his motion. It's not that it looks bad, because his lower body mechanics are actually outstanding. He's very intentional about maintaining a solid base when he throws, and you can really notice that at the top of his drop. But, and this is just honest critique, sometimes it feels like he's just slinging it out there. That said, I do want to highlight something encouraging as I nitpick. The whip effect we've talked about before is still showing up. If you've been following his progress, you'll remember I mentioned that one of his biggest improvements has come from generating torque through his upper body. His lower body has always been top tier, but now his upper half mechanics are catching up, creating that silky smooth, effortless flick we're starting to see. That's a serious step forward. Now, is Shedeur Sanders the QB1? Well, Wednesday marked the first media access day. Not technically his first practice, but it's the first time we've been able to truly observe. He went 3 out of 8. Not exactly stellar, not disastrous either. No interceptions. Dillon Gabriel threw the only touchdown of the session. So yes, the quarterback tracker is officially heating up again. Let's take a step back and look at the full scope of the day, between 11 on 11, 7 on 7s, and other situational drills. This particular batch looks mostly like team reps. And remember, the Browns still aren't in full pads, just shells for now. But for the first time, we're getting a real visual on Shedeur Sanders in action. I've put together a brief compilation. Let's analyze his movement, body language, poise. The details matter. First impressions? That flick at the top of his motion, crisp. Spirals are tight. He looks clean dropping back. Sure, 1 or 2 balls floated a bit, but some of that could be intentional. Taking pace off for softer touches. Here's a play-action rollout to the left. He hits his guy in stride. That's his go-to receiver, no surprise there. Nice defensive breakup on another rep. Tight window. Might have completed it, hard to tell in real time. He connected on a few solid ones, then boom, clear sack. Gotta clean that up. You'll notice D Ford in motion, but wait. Turns out that's actually Strong Jr. Flicks the ball on the move, quick release. That's promising. Now let's talk concerns and highlights. It's a rookie after all, and there's good and bad. One pass in particular stood out as arguably his best of the session. Picture this. Sideline throw, tight coverage, but Sanders places it exactly where only the receiver can get it. Reminiscent of a laser I once broke down from Tyler's show. Same concept. This was an NFL caliber throw. In the pros, defenders won't always be out of position. Sometimes everyone's covered. What separates high-level QBs is the ability to trust their arm, their receiver, and make a precision throw into a microscopic window. This wasn't a contested catch. This was a surgical strike. A receiver didn't even flinch, ball stuck like it had magnets. Sure, Shedeur ended 3 for 8, but context matters. Let's break down the numbers. Joe Flacco, 5 for 5, limited reps. Shedeur Sanders, 3 for 8, threw the most passes. Kenny Pickett, 6 for 7, Dillon Gabriel. 6 for 7 with the only touchdown, a deep bomb. Clean, confident release. Perfect read. We'll review that throw later. Gabriel saw the opening and fired a missile. Simple and effective. But here's what matters. When you're a 5th-round pick, even on a rough day, you need to have at least 1 or 2 elite moments. Plays that pop off the screen. Sanders had that. That sideline strike was one of those moments. Training camp has just kicked off, and yet the quarterback battle in Cleveland already feels like a formality. Because day 1 didn't belong to Joe Flacco. It didn't belong to Kenny Pickett, and it certainly didn't belong to 3rd-round pick Dillon Gabriel. No, day 1 belonged to Shedeur Sanders. The so-called QB4, a 5th-rounder, son of Prime, and apparently too confident for the league's liking, strolled into his inaugural NFL training camp and made the entire depth chart look irrelevant. From the moment number 12 hit the turf, the entire energy shifted. Spirals snapped out of his hand, precision, composure, command. And this was before the 11-on-11s even started. Fans were roaring just from warm-ups. And when live reps began, Shedeur cooked the defense. Gabriel didn't. This wasn't about equal opportunities, it was about execution. And Sanders? He didn't just look like he belonged, he looked like the future. Gabriel, on the other hand, looked overwhelmed. It's only day 1, but the separation is already unmistakable. The real question isn't whether Sanders can catch Gabriel, it's how much longer the Browns can pretend this is even a real competition. The gates hadn't been open 10 minutes before the crowd started chanting one name. Not Flacco, not Pickett, not Gabriel, the higher-drafted rookie. No, the energy was all behind Shedeur. From the instant he jogged onto the field, fans were locked in. Phones raised, voices high. And with every pinpoint throw, it became blindingly obvious. Shedeur Sanders didn't just pass the eye test, he owned it. Meanwhile, Gabriel looked like he was still trying to find the answers. On paper, 2025 was supposed to be a development year. Tony Grossi said Shedeur would be inactive most Sundays. Gabriel supposedly had the inside track, experience, system fit, intangibles. But on the grass, under pressure, in front of fans? That 4-year plan got incinerated. Shedeur's release was cleaner, his footwork sharper. His timing with receivers, especially on intermediate crossers and deep outs, was elite. Every rep echoed with rhythm and NFL readiness. Then came Gabriel's turn. High throws, off timing. A fluttering out route that had fans exchanging puzzled glances. Not horrendous, but certainly not assertive. And when you're fighting for a job in front of a city desperate for a franchise QB, Not horrendous doesn't cut it. That's the gap. Sanders seized the spotlight. Gabriel tried not to drown in it. And you could feel the momentum shift. The buzz wasn't just about Shedeur's last name. It was about how he moved, how he led. Gabriel looked like he was chasing. By the end of practice, nobody was talking about QB4 versus QB3. They were all saying the same thing. This ain't a battle, it's a blowout. If day one proved anything, it's this. The disparity between Shedeur Sanders and Dillon Gabriel isn't theoretical. It's visible, it's tangible, and it's growing. In team drills, Shedeur was surgical. No panic, no wasted motion. Just rhythm throws, perfectly timed routes. Deep comebacks, curls, red zone fades. Multiple local reporters noted his poise, his eye discipline, his anticipation, and, most importantly, his command. Gabriel? He opened camp with 3 consecutive miscues. 1 overthrown, 1 short-hopped, 1 nearly intercepted. Though he somewhat rebounded later, the damage was already done. Fans groaned. Doubt rippled through the bleachers. And this isn't just emotional noise, it's data. In closed OTAs, Sanders completed 77% of his throws, tallied 9 touchdowns, and threw just 1 interception on a tipped ball. Gabriel? Despite more reps and facing softer coverage packages, he struggled to string completions together without errors in timing. That regression carried into training camp. And people are taking notice. Victor Ford didn't hold back, saying Sanders deserves to win this job outright. He added, "You don't draft a short QB in the 3rd round just because he has a firm handshake and so-called leadership vibes. That's not slander, that's truth." At 5'11", Gabriel struggles to read the middle of the field. When the pocket collapses, so does his base. His footwork disintegrates. Thank you guys, see you next video.